All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our second Google Hangout of the week. My name is Sarah Van Cleve, and I am an admission officer as well as a somewhat recent graduate from the Princeton class of 2012. And I am thrilled to be here with you tonight discussing the humanities and social sciences at Princeton. So as a refresher for how the evening will work, you, the admitted students, can submit your questions via the Q&A app, and I will select those questions, read them aloud, and then toss them to our wonderful student panelists who will be able to expound upon their Princeton experience. So we'll spend about 30 to 45 minutes discussing your questions on the humanities and social sciences at Princeton. So with that in mind, I'd like to have the panelists introduce themselves. If you all could tell us your name, your hometown, your academic department, and any certificates you are receiving. I was an English major at Princeton, and I got a certificate in gender and sexuality studies. So with that, let's kick it off to you, and why don't we start with Jake?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Jake Robertson. I'm originally from Lombard, Illinois. It's about 45 minutes southwest of Chicago. And I'm a Slavic Languages and Literatures major with certificates in theater and Russian, Eurasian, and East European studies. Oh, there's no more, right?
No, that sounds great. Lauren, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren. I'm from Oak Park, Illinois, which is right outside of Chicago. I'm an art and archaeology major, specifically Program 1, which is art history. But I've also taken some creative writing, some journalism, some viz arts, so I can speak about any of that stuff too if people have questions.
Wonderful. Thanks, Lauren. So now, Thomas, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, welcome to the chat. My name is Thomas Garcia. I'm from Pharr, Texas, in the Rio Grande Valley. I'm a junior in the English department, and I'm focusing on American literature, and I'm currently getting a certificate in American Studies.
Wonderful. And then Kevin, if you want to tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure. Thanks for everyone for tuning in tonight. My name is Kevin Lopez. I am a junior in the sociology department from Newark, New Jersey. Specifically sociology in terms of race relations, and urban affairs are my main interests in sociology.
Wonderful. So we're going to go ahead and start taking questions now, and we will start with this one, which is, hello, can you tell me more about the academic advising at Princeton and how one goes about crafting their 4-year plan? So is there anyone who would like to speak a bit about the advising program, maybe starting off in the residential colleges and then how that academic advising shifts once you select your department in the spring of your sophomore year?
Sure, I could speak to that. So as an incoming freshman, you're assigned to one of the residential colleges here on campus, and then you're also assigned an academic advisor. If you originally applied to Princeton as an AB major, you will be assigned an advisor that is also in the AB. If you applied to Princeton as an engineer, you would be assigned someone in the engineering department. But advising goes beyond just the one-on-one relationship with a professor. Within the residential college, you also have the director of studies, and you also have the director of student life. So you have this basically this community of people willing and already ready for you when you come in as a freshman in terms of academic and also just other sorts of advising as well.
Great. Thanks, Kevin. Does anyone else want to speak about their advising experience at Princeton? Maybe an advisor who has had some kind of meaningful relationship with you on campus or been especially helpful as you chose your major or chose your courses?
Yeah, I can speak to that. Freshman year, I was in Wilson College with Sarah Anderson, who is an English professor here. And since I'm an English major, it was a perfect match. And she was able to tell me right from the start which classes I should take. If I was interested in American literature, she gave me the insight of who to talk to in the program and the department. And at the same time, I had a peer academic advisor who was an engineer. So I was getting advice from both departments, which was very fortunate. And to this day, I keep in contact with both Sarah Anderson, who is now my advisor for the Mellon Mays undergraduate fellowship here at Princeton, and the peer advisor for my freshman year. Although he's graduated already, he still gives me advice about which courses that I should take for my lab course or my technology course, my math credit, things like that. Help me out as an English major. The advising really does go beyond just advice. I could always go to Professor Anderson for personal advice, and over the 3 years we've gotten to know each other very well, and she's become like a personal mentor to me here at Princeton.
Great, thanks, Thomas. So as a senior, Jake, you have had the experience of completing your junior independent work, and you're currently working on your senior thesis. So is there anything that you'd like to share about your advising experience throughout that process?
Sure. Well, I got incredibly lucky with my advisor because the woman who I was assigned to my freshman year, Deborah Capel, she's actually in the sociology department, so that's your realm, Kevin. But she taught at my freshman sem, which was on the Soviet Gulag, and since then she's sort of become what I call my advisor for life, because she's been my advisor through my freshman and sophomore years as my academic advisor, and then my junior year she became the advisor for my junior paper, my independent work for that year, and then now she's advising me on my senior thesis. So she's been there all the steps of the way, and she's become kind of like a surrogate mother to me on campus and has invited me, to her home to meet her family and all sorts of things. So we've really established a really close relationship that I'm very thankful for.
Great. Well, let's take the next question now. This is getting a lot of upvotes. And the question is, I know you can't double major at Princeton, so how would you go about combining interests in multiple areas? If there isn't a specific certificate in your second interest, what could you do? And I know, Lauren, that you are pursuing some art and some creative writing and a couple of other things, so maybe you could speak a bit to this?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, even though we don't have double majors at Princeton, it's definitely very easy to pursue all of your interests. There are many people who get certificates, many people get multiple certificates. Since the requirements are less than for your major, it's really easy to combine whatever you're interested in. And even if there wasn't a specific certificate that spoke to your interests, you can still definitely work with your advisor to design something. You can design your own major. You can do an independent concentration. So I had a friend who was interested in looking at journalism and politics, so she designed her own political journalism major, and I know she really liked that. So really, whatever your interests are, the advisors here are totally willing to work with you and set up something that will be interesting for you.
Great. Does anyone else have anything that they would like to add about pursuing different interests at Princeton?
I guess that I would say that there's also, so there's a couple things that allow you to kind of concentrate and focus on things that you really want to study. And that includes your independent work, like we've mentioned, your junior papers and your thesis. You can really, I think, in a lot of departments, they're very flexible and open to you pulling in your other interests and figuring out a way to make that work with the concentration, with your major. So I know a lot of people, like for example, this is more of an extracurricular interest, but my roommate is a baseball player, and he's also an economics major. So he's writing a thesis right now about I don't pretend to know, I'm not a sports guy, but he's writing about some change in the rules of baseball that impacts the economics and payment system of the players. So there's a lot of opportunity with independent work to really make it your own and focus that way. And then of course the other thing I was going to say is that there are so many extracurricular opportunities that you could get involved in various clubs on campus that may focus on something that isn't offered as a major. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jake. So let's take another question. We have one here about the humanities sequence. So the question is, have any of you taken the humanities sequence? And can you talk about the experience, positives, negatives? Who do you think would be a good fit for the program? How competitive is it? So maybe if one of you has taken the humanities sequence and could speak more about that, or if not, if you could explain a little bit about what the humanities sequence is for students.
Yeah, I took it my freshman year, and it was definitely one of the best classes that I've taken here. Basically what it is, for people who don't know, is it's a class that you take for your freshman year. It's full year, and it counts as 2 classes, and you read essentially the great books of Western literature. So you start with ancient Greek theater and philosophy and history, and then you move on almost until the present era. And it's taught by many professors from all different departments who will come in and rotate lectures, and then you also get a bunch of different preceptors throughout the year. So you get to meet faculty from all different departments, and it's some of the best professors at this school are teaching this freshman level class, which is just a great experience. You also get really close to all of the people who are in the class. We all ate lunch together every day after the class and studied together. There's also a trip that goes to Greece your sophomore year that's associated with the sequence, so you can apply for that, and then you get to go to Greece with some of the friends that you've made. So I thought it was a really great experience. As far as who applies for it, all different kinds of people. There are people who were positive that this was the kind of thing that they wanted to be studying, and then there were people who were engineers or totally interested in a different area and just thought that this would be a great way to read a lot of good books and meet great faculty, and that's why they took it. So yeah, I definitely recommend it if it sounds like something that interests you.
Thanks, Lauren. Let's take another question now about the thesis. So this question is, could you give some thesis examples from the humanities and social sciences departments? What kind of research can you pursue? So Jake, I know you're working on a thesis right now, so maybe you could tackle this one first and tell us a bit about your thesis research, as well as any other research you may have done for your certificate programs, and then others if you'd like to add on research that you know friends have done or research that you've been doing for your junior independent work.
Great. So yes, you're right. I'm currently in the throes of my Slavic thesis, which is due in 3 weeks. But I'm feeling good about it. I've had a really great experience with it. I sort of had an idea about what I wanted to study relatively early on, but that's certainly not a prerequisite. A lot of people, formulate things later on. But I luckily knew my junior year what I wanted to study, and so I was able to apply for a fellowship through the Princeton Institute for International and Regional Studies. And so I thankfully was awarded that fellowship, and they funded me to do thesis research in Russia this past summer. in the Russian far north, to be exact, in subarctic. And what I study and have been studying for the past couple years is the amazing phenomenon of the Soviet Gulag, and particularly professional theater that happened in the Soviet Gulag. So I went to these camps, former campsites, this last summer with the help of the peers, Princeton Institute of International and Regional Studies here at Princeton, and was able to accrue so many different documents that were just inaccessible here in the United States. And I brought them all back and scanned them, and then this year I've been, scouring them and finding everything I needed to formulate this thesis on a topic that hasn't really been written on. And all throughout that process, my advisor for life, I'll mention her name again, Deb Capel, has been at my side and pushing me along. And Princeton has been incredibly supportive of me and my travels and my research and all of that. So.
Thanks, Jake. Is there anyone else who would like to speak about this topic?
Sure. I'll go ahead and speak about. So as a junior, we also have independent work, what we call the junior paper, which is just a little bit less than the amount of work required for the thesis. However, the amount of research and the amount of time spent on this is very considerable. So in the sociology department, coming in as a junior, I didn't have quite as an idea of what was my research going to concern about until I took a required class for sociology, which is sociological methods. And then one of the assignments was to devise an experiment, just a really quick pilot study. And once I went through the process of creating my own experiment, administering it, and basically interpreting the results, I found that type of sociological research to be very fascinating. And so I actually expanded upon that for my junior paper, which is actually due on Friday. It concerns racial perceptions, news media perceptions, and how people assess punishment based on how the news media frames people, or whether or not their race plays a more influential role. So I actually did the experiment here on campus. I sent out the survey electronically. There is a Princeton Survey Center that helps people distribute their survey out to the students and or people in the United States. And so they're also very helpful in interpreting your results. It's been a phenomenal experience being able to just work through the data, find meaningful results, and being able to have a sense of ownership over your work, that you, as an undergraduate, have an opportunity to do research, and that's definitely something that I will keep in mind as I go into my senior year as well.
Great, thank you, Kevin. We are even more grateful that you are here with us tonight, given that your junior paper is due on Friday, so thank you again. Let's move to the next question, which is, what sort of international experiences have you had as a humanities or social sciences concentrator? And Thomas, I know that you've somewhat recently come back from a semester abroad, so maybe you could speak a bit to that experience.
Sure, yeah. Last semester I spent fall abroad at University College London. It was through the Princeton in London program, which is for English majors in their junior year. I spent it with 7 other Princeton students. It was very enlightening living in a city. I mean, it's totally different from Princeton. Even the college itself is a large public school, and you're thrust into a new environment where you're with other Princeton students, and I was with a Princeton professor taking a Princeton seminar there among 3 other classes at that school. And part of the program is getting immersed in this new environment and really expanding your horizons. A lot of the program also took place outside the seminar, going to theater, going to plays in the city, spending a lot of time as a group. And since we were a small group, we got to spend a lot of time together and get to know each other pretty well. And coming back to Princeton in the spring has given me a new perspective on things. I mean, the fact that Princeton is a much smaller school, and just being in the motion of things now that you're back in the spring. I'm back in the spring semester. You see things through a new light. I definitely suggest going a semester abroad. Some students are afraid that they're going to miss a semester at Princeton. They don't want to waste that time, but I definitely think going abroad is an integral part of your Princeton experience. You need to do it at least once, whether it's in a semester, which I highly recommend, or in a summer program through the Office of International Programs. They have a variety of programs for any type of major or department you might be in.
Thank you, Thomas. Speaking of other enriching activities, let's go ahead and take this question about on-campus lectures and events that have supplemented your learning both in and out of the classroom. Would any of you like to speak about a lecture you've been to or someone that the university has hosted on campus that has been either informative for what you study or just a fun lecture that you were interested in attending on campus?
Sure.
Go ahead.
You can go ahead.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit about that. Princeton always has some kind of event going on, whether it's a meal that you can have with someone who's visiting, or a lecture, or an interview. There are posters about it everywhere, so whatever you're interested in, there's always going to be something going on where you can go hear about it. Speaking personally for the ones that I've attended, since I'm interested in creative writing, I've gone to see a lot of readings. They'll have visiting authors, usually from New York, come down and read some of their work, which is really amazing because it introduces you to authors that you might not know about, and you also get to hear them reading their own work, which is an experience that you don't get very often. So I found that really valuable. Also for art history, there are art history professors that visit a lot. Also artists will come and give demonstrations sometimes. So really whatever field you're interested in, there's always someone here that you can go see.
Yeah, absolutely. There's constantly just a variety of different lecturers, speakers, interviews. You can definitely see the posters lying around if you didn't get the emails already. I actually attended a lecture this year given by former Princeton professor Dr. Cornell West on the future of race relations. It was actually, I attended the lecture right before my proposal was due in terms of my junior paper. And it was absolutely just moving, just being able to hear him speak and just speak about the subject of just not only race here in the United States, but also just around the world as well. So that really influenced my my thinking towards developing and crafting basically a topic for my paper. And also another lecture that I attended. This was back in my freshman year. We had actually an NHL announcer come by and visit us, and basically talked about the future and basically the business of hockey. Because I myself am on the club hockey team, so I'm very interested definitely in the affairs of just sports and in general. And so it was very interesting being able to hear him not in the context you would hear him like announcing hockey play-by-play, but just being able to get to know someone out of that context and being able to hear them develop their ideas is absolutely interesting. And of course, if the lecturer themselves didn't attract you, there's plenty of food to keep you there. So I highly recommend them.
All right, great. Let's take another question, and this one is about random classes. So the question is, how often are you able to take a random class in a different department just for fun? Are most of your classes centered around your concentration or certificates? So just so we have the general information out there, as an AB student at Princeton, getting a Bachelor of Arts, you're required to take 31 courses at Princeton. Typically, a concentration, or what we call a concentration, a major, is roughly 12 courses. So that gives you some leeway to explore other options. So is there anyone who'd like to speak about a bit about distribution requirements at Princeton, or maybe to share a random class that you've taken that's outside your major or your certificate options?
Yeah, I'll take the fun random part. Yeah, definitely freshman and sophomore years, especially if you're an AB major. I think those are definitely the years where you have time, and definitely the autonomy, and like you're definitely encouraged to like explore outside your department or any department you might be thinking about. Coming to Princeton, I was debating which humanities I wanted to pick, whether it was English, religion, history, you name it. And through taking the English courses at the time, I was able to realize I really wanted to be in the department. But even when I chose English, and to this day in sixth semester, I still try to take those random fun classes. Some examples are Greek history. I took this second semester freshman year, and I knew I didn't want to be a classics major, but I took it anyway because I felt like it would augment my experience. I would get to know something I wouldn't have learned anywhere else. And I guess my choice, my language choice as well, I guess was a bit random. It was Latin. I had a lot of Spanish background in high school. I wanted to do something completely new, so I took 4 semesters of Latin for my foreign language experience, which is part of the AB requirement.
Yeah, definitely. I really just want to resonate what Thomas said about like how random classes can actually become very informative. I came into Princeton as a science major. I wanted to do something in the sciences, and then I decided to take an intro to sociology course here on campus. And then from there on, I was just absolutely captivated by the subject and the various professors that were in the department. So in a way, random classes can serve as as a way to look at other majors or other other topics that you might have not necessarily considered. One of my favorite random classes that I took was a class on soccer and Latin America. This was taught by a professor named Bruno Carvalho, professor from Brazil, and it was a small class. It's a class of about 20 students my freshman year. This class was what we call freshman seminars, which is basically a seminar that's devoted to a topic that's only open to freshmen. And it's taught by a professor in the university. And so within that class, we were able to talk about soccer, but also talk about just the worldwide perspective, both varying from country to country, and also the literature surrounding the sport and its origins. So it was absolutely wonderful to take a class like that here, and just plenty of other classes that I've taken like that here. I could go on, but that was the one that stands out the most.
Great, thanks, Kevin. So on that note, we have a similar question that's getting a lot of upvotes, and that's just about favorite courses in general. So what have been your favorite courses that you might recommend to incoming freshmen?
Yeah, I'll begin. Well, my favorite course, I hope it's offered again next year, is science fiction. I'm taking it right now. It's a spring semester course. The teacher is my junior thesis advisor. He's just very knowledgeable in the area. And I was very surprised that Princeton finally has a science fiction class. It's something I'm really interested, not just academically, but writing it as well. And not to detract you from this Google Hangout, but something I wish I would have known as a freshman is just the website, Princeton Course Offerings. You can Google it. You can see what's going to be offered in the fall. I wish I had known that before orientation week, and it would have given me a lot more time to plan what I really wanted to do. One course that's going to be offered there that is taught by the professor of the science fiction course is graphic novels and comics. So it's going to be I think it's a big course. It's a big lecture course. Freshmen should be able to get into it pretty easily. So I definitely recommend that course.
Yeah, another course that I would recommend for all freshmen, for literally anyone, is definitely Introduction to Sociology. Again, it's a very big lecture course, but it gives you, and also you have to fulfill a social analysis distribution requirement. And what better way to satisfy it through Intro to Sociology? There you get basically a general view of the various types of sociological research methods, and also famous works done by sociologists. And even though the lectures are large, the precepts are definitely very valuable here. You'll be able to connect with your graduate student who, or sometimes the professor actually leads the precept as well. And there you'll be able to talk more in depth about the ideas that were brought up in class. And I just believe that, just one of the things coming out of Princeton, I really recommend taking a sociology course. It'll change the way at least you view some things here in your life. So definitely recommend it.
I can recommend a few really quickly. Definitely the Humanities sequence, which I already spoke about, is a really great experience. Another thing that's offered only to freshmen are freshman seminars. So that's essentially a small group, usually between 10 and 15 people, I think, with a professor, and they're very focused topics, usually something that the professor is really specifically interested in. And so many great professors teach these courses. The president of the university has been known to teach them. So you get to work with really great faculty in a small group. And there are really cool topics from all over. I took one called What is Ballet, where we watched ballets and learned about that. And I know nothing about dancing, but I thought it was really interesting. And also there are quite a few freshman seminars that are about science or math, but kind of from a humanities approach, which is really great if you're like me and math makes you kind of nervous. It's a good chance to approach that a little easier. And then one last thing I would recommend is definitely taking creative writing if that's something that you're interested in, because they always reserve spots for freshmen in all of the classes, even with the really top name professors. So like Jeffrey Eugenides, you could take a creative writing class with him right when you get to campus, which is really amazing.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. Let's take this one about starting a new language at Princeton. What is it like to start a new language? And maybe, Jake, I know you've taken at least one, maybe two languages at Princeton, so maybe you can speak a bit to your experience studying languages here.
Absolutely. Language at Princeton has really been an integral part of my experience here. I studied Spanish in high school, and it was a fine program, but it wasn't where my heart was, so I decided to start a new language when I came here, and that language was Russian. And I've taken the equivalent of, basically, this will be 6 years of Russian if you include the summer intensives that I took while I've been here. And first of all, the introductory courses here at Princeton, I've heard in all the language programs are really, really excellent. They're usually pretty small. They're very, they have incredible faculty, people who really know what they're doing. And then they also offer, most of these programs also offer summer intensives, like the one I'm about to talk about. It's called Princeton in St. Petersburg. And what happens is, so I was starting Russian from scratch. I had taught myself the Cyrillic alphabet in high school, but that was as far as I got. But after my first year, I took 2 semesters of Russian, and then I had the opportunity to live in Russia for 2 months and take language intensive at a university in St. Petersburg. And the great thing about that program is because it is a Princeton program, those courses that I took over the summer counted as my second year of Russian. So by the time I came back for my sophomore year, I was able to start in 3rd year Russian. And so that has been an incredible experience, and I felt like I've been able to get as close to fluent as possible without living there for 4 years. And finally, my junior year, I decided I just had the crazy idea that I wanted to study Polish as well. I have some Polish heritage, and I'm also from Chicago, which has the 2nd largest world population of Poles outside of Warsaw. And so I decided, hey, let's go for it. And so I am now in a Polish course. This is my 2nd year of Polish. And you want the most amazing thing is that there's only 2 people in the course. It's me and another senior, and they still put on the course. First of all, I think that's a testament to the Slavic department that they really care enough about their students to do that. But also just Princeton in general. If there's interest here in a language that isn't being offered, they will do their best to find a professor who's willing to teach it. And so I've had an amazing experience with language here.
Thank you, Jake. I think that you're absolutely right. That is not only a testament to the Slavic department, but also to the undergraduate focus at Princeton and that 6-to-1 student-faculty ratio. On that note, let's take one last question for the evening, which I've been saving up till the end. And the question is, what tips or suggestions about Princeton in general would you give to incoming freshmen that you wished that you had known as a freshman? So do you all, maybe each of you could share one last piece of advice for our newly admitted students?
Yeah, I can start. Definitely, from day one, make sure you do everything you can to reach out to your professors. Remember that they're human beings and they want to reach out to you and they want to help you. Take advantage of office hours. Feel free to email your professors, get to know them better, get to know what their interests are, let them know what your interests are, and they can really help you, whether they're in your department or not. Just sitting down and talking with them and getting to know who they are, where they come from, and why they do what they do can be very enlightening. And of course, you want to go, if you're struggling in a course, they're always open to help you. And to add on to what I said, something I said earlier, I confirm this right now. This is also a personal story that happened to me. The graphic novels and comics course I just mentioned, it says on the course offerings not open to freshmen. Now, when you see that, don't automatically become sad. I felt the same way freshman year about a certain course that said not open to freshmen. I emailed the professor. I explained why I wanted to take the course. I was really passionate about it, and he let me in. It's usually not a space issue, especially if it's a huge lecture. So if you express interest and you really show that you want to take this course for a specific reason and it'll help your development, then just explain that to the professor, either through email or through or in person. And the professors are here to help you, and always remember that.
I definitely just have one piece of advice. It's totally okay to come in undecided. One of the things that I thought that coming into Princeton, I thought, wow, I had to already know what I want to do. I have to have all my 4 years at Princeton already lined up and ready to go. That's not the case. One thing I recommend is take as many classes as you can, especially as an AV major. Explore all sorts of types of classes. I didn't even know what sociology was until I came to Princeton and took that Introduction to Sociology course. So don't be afraid to venture out and take new things. You're offered what's called a grading option called PDF, which you're able to designate a course. Either instead of a grade, you would designate it as pass, D, or fail. And I definitely urge everyone to take advantage of that, to take a class that normally you would have never considered. You have nothing to lose, and I think it's definitely something worthwhile to do. To take a class that you've never imagined taking.
Yeah, all of this is great advice and things. Yeah, I do wish I knew as well. But I think we've talked a ton about scholarship and academics here at Princeton, and they're all incredible. But I think one thing to remember is that each one of us also has an extracurricular life, and there are so many opportunities at Princeton. You can't even know. You can't know until you come how many opportunities there will be for you to get involved in whatever you want to. And so I would suggest that from the very beginning, be open to new experiences in the extracurricular realm, but also just be willing to get involved in organizations, clubs, performance groups, sports teams. I don't know a lot about them, but I hear they're cool. And just really, I think that's been I've done a ton of theater and theater writing, comedy work, improv throughout my time at Princeton, and some of my extracurricular experiences have been some of the most fulfilling and really informative about what I want to do with my life. So I think don't forget that aspect too. I know we're here for academics, but there's a lot more to it as well.
Yeah, my piece of advice would just be meet as many people as you can and really make some friendships when you get here. Because I know that when you come in as a freshman, you're bombarded with so much information because you have to get used to new classes, you're joining clubs, and there's a lot going on. But it's really important to meet people here because those are some of the friends you'll have for the rest of your life. And those are some of the experiences that I think you'll remember. I think everyone here, I haven't met a single person here that I don't like. Everyone's so friendly and everyone loves Princeton so much. So any conversation that you have with anyone is going to be great, and you should definitely reach out to as many people as you can.
Great. Well, thank you again. A huge thank you to all of the student panelists, the current students tonight who shared your infinite wisdom about your departments, your extracurriculars, and your love for Princeton. It's very moving to hear how much Princeton means to all of you and the different ways that your experience has shaped who you are. So thank you for sharing all of those stories with us. Before we say goodnight tonight, I do have a couple last-minute logistical notes. Any additional information that we discussed tonight, we will post links to the event page of the Google Hangout so that you can access that information. We also do have 2 more Google Hangouts this week, both at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So Wednesday night, tomorrow night, there will be a Google Hangout with some students from the Woodrow Wilson School, history, politics, and economics. And then on Thursday night, there will be a Google Hangout with sciences and mathematics. If you have additional questions about humanities or social sciences or anything else, please feel free to email us at uaoffice@princeton.edu. We do hope to see you at one of our 2 Princeton preview days upcoming. There is Monday, April 13th and Tuesday, April 28th. And either way, we hope that you will connect with us somehow on social media. You can follow us on Twitter now at ApplyPrinceton. Remember to use the hashtags Princeton Preview and Princeton 2019. And then if you're interested in some additional perspective on everyday life on campus, visit our student blog. We have 13 wonderful bloggers, a few of them included among our panelists tonight. That blog, Speaking of Princeton, it can be found at admission.princeton.edu/blogs. So panelists, we will be signing off now, and admitted students, thank you for joining us, and good night.